Marcus Chen moved slowly through the busy corridor of Kepler Station. His white cane tapped against the metal floor as he walked. The sound echoed off the walls and mixed with the noise of hundreds of alien voices. Marcus had learned to use these sounds like a map. Each footstep, each voice, each mechanical hum told him where he was and what was around him. The 16-year-old human boy was used to being different. On Kepler Station, humans were rare. Most of the people living here were aliens from different worlds. There were the tall, blue-skinned Zephyrians with their musical voices, the small, furry Quillnox who always smelled like flowers, the massive, rock-like granites who spoke in rumbling tones. And then there were the Vorthons. Marcus tried not to think about the Vorthons too much. They looked like giant lizards that walked on two legs. Their scales were dark green or brown, and their eyes were cold and yellow. They had sharp teeth and long claws, but the worst thing about them was how they acted. Vortons believed that being strong meant hurting others who were weak. As Marcus walked toward the recycling center where he worked, he heard familiar voices ahead. His stomach dropped. He knew those voices. They belonged to a group of young Vorthons who had made his life difficult for months. Marcus slowed down and tried to listen. Maybe he could find another way to get to work. "Look what we have here," said a rough voice. Marcus recognized it as Scrix, the leader of the group. "The broken human is coming our way." Marcus stopped walking. He gripped his cane tighter and tried to stay calm. "I'm just going to work," he said quietly. "I do not want any trouble." "Trouble?" laughed another voice. This was Vex, Scrix's best friend. "We are not making trouble. We are just talking to you." More Vorthons gathered around. Marcus could hear their claws clicking on the metal floor. He could smell their sharp reptile scent. His heart started beating faster. There were at least 5 of them now, maybe more. "You know what I do not understand?" Scrix said, walking closer to Marcus. "Why do the station leaders let broken things like you live here? You cannot see. You cannot work properly. You are useless." "I can work," Marcus said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I do my job at the recycling center every day." "Ha!" Vex laughed loudly. "You call that work? Sorting garbage that machines could do better? Any robot could do your job." Marcus felt his face get hot with anger, but he knew better than to fight back. Fighting would only make things worse. "Please let me pass," he said. "I will be late for work." "Oh, you will be late," Scrix said. "But not because of us." Before Marcus could react, sharp claws grabbed his cane and pulled hard. Marcus held on tight, but Vex grabbed his arm and twisted it. Pain shot through his shoulder and he had to let go. "Give that back," Marcus said, reaching out blindly. "I need that to walk." "You need this?" Scrix held the cane high above Marcus's head. "This old stick? It is just garbage like you." The other Vorthons laughed. Marcus could hear more footsteps around him. Other people were walking by, but no one stopped to help. This happened a lot on Kepler Station. When the Vorthons caused trouble, most aliens looked the other way. They were afraid of getting hurt too. "My parents gave me that cane," Marcus said. His voice was shaking now. "It is all I have left of them." "Your parents?" Scrix made a fake sad voice. "Oh, poor little human. Your parents are dead, are they not? They left you here like unwanted cargo." Marcus felt tears start to come to his eyes. His parents had died when their ship crashed during a storm on the way to a new colony world. He was only 6 years old then. The people of Kepler Station had taken him in, but they had never really wanted him. He was just a burden they had to carry. "They did not leave me," Marcus whispered. "They died trying to make a better life for us." "Sure they did," Vex said. "Or maybe they saw what a useless child they had and decided to get rid of you." The words hit Marcus like a punch to the stomach. He had wondered the same thing many times late at night when he could not sleep. Maybe his parents would still be alive if they had not been carrying him to a new world. Maybe they would have stayed safe if they had left him behind. "Look at him," another Vorthon said. "He is going to cry." "Humans are so weak," Scrix said. "No wonder they are almost extinct. They cannot even protect their own children." "Give me back my cane," Marcus said one more time. He tried to sound brave, but his voice cracked. "You want it back?" Scrix asked. "Come and get it." Marcus reached toward the sound of Scrix's voice. His hands waved in the air, trying to find his cane. The Vorthons laughed and stepped back. Marcus stumbled forward and almost fell. "This is sad to watch," Vex said. "Put him out of his misery." Marcus heard a loud crack. Then another. His heart sank as he realized what was happening. Scrix was breaking his cane into pieces. "No," Marcus cried out. He dropped to his knees and felt around on the floor. His hands found the broken pieces of white metal and plastic. The cane was destroyed. It could not be fixed. "Oops," Scrick said, not sounding sorry at all. "I think your stick is broken." "How clumsy of me." The Vorthons laughed even louder. Marcus heard their footsteps moving away as they left him alone on the floor. Other people walked by, but no one stopped. Marcus sat there holding the broken pieces of his cane. It was the last thing he had from his old life. Now it was gone. Marcus tried not to cry, but tears came anyway. He was stuck on the floor of the busy corridor. Without his cane, he could not tell where the walls were or which way led to safety. People walked around him like he was just another piece of garbage on the floor. The recycling center was still 6 corridors away. Marcus could try to crawl along the walls, but that would take hours. He would definitely be late for work. His supervisor was already angry with him for being slow. If he was late again, he might lose his job. Then he would have nothing at all. Marcus closed his eyes and tried to remember what his mother used to tell him. "You are stronger than you know, Marcus," she would say. "Humans do not give up. We find a way." But sitting on the cold metal floor with his broken cane in his hands, Marcus felt anything but strong. He felt small and helpless and very much alone. The sounds of the station continued around him. Aliens talked and laughed and went about their lives. No one cared about one broken human boy. Marcus took a deep breath and tried to stand up. He would have to feel his way along the walls. It would be slow and dangerous, but he had to try. He could not just sit here forever. As he struggled to his feet, Marcus heard heavy footsteps approaching. They were different from the quick, light steps of most aliens. These footsteps were slow and deliberate. They belonged to someone big and heavy. Marcus froze. Were the Vorthons coming back to hurt him more? The heavy footsteps stopped right in front of Marcus. He held his breath and waited for more pain. Instead, he heard a deep voice that sounded nothing like the Vorthons. "Son, are you hurt?" The voice was rough but kind. It had an accent that Marcus recognized. It was human. Marcus had not heard another human voice in months. Most humans lived on colony worlds far from Kepler Station. Very few ever came here. I am okay," Marcus said, though he was not really okay at all. He was still holding the broken pieces of his cane. "No, you are not okay," the man said. "You are sitting on the floor in the middle of a busy corridor, and you look like someone just broke your heart." Marcus felt the man kneel down beside him. He smelled different from the aliens on the station. He smelled like soap and metal and something else. Something that reminded Marcus of his father. "My name is Captain Thorne," the man said. "What is yours?" "Marcus Chen," Marcus replied quietly. "Well, Marcus Chen, would you like some help getting up?" Marcus nodded. He felt a strong hand take his arm gently and help him stand. Captain Thorne was much taller than Marcus. Even standing up, Marcus only came to the man's chest. "What happened to your cane?" Captain Thorne asked. Marcus looked down at the broken pieces in his hands. "Some Vorthons broke it. They said I was useless and that humans are weak." Captain Thorne was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was colder. "They broke your mobility aid on purpose?" "Yes, sir. They do it sometimes. They think it is funny." Marcus heard Captain Thorne take a deep breath. "Where were you going, son?" "To work at the recycling center. But I cannot get there now without my cane. I will probably lose my job." "No, you will not," Captain Thorne said firmly. "Not today. Come with me." "Where?" Marcus asked. He was not sure if he should trust this stranger, even if he was human. "To my ship. I have something that might help you. Something better than what those lizards broke." Marcus hesitated. His whole life people had told him to be careful of strangers. But Captain Thorne sounded honest. And he was human. Marcus had not talked to another human in so long. "Okay," Marcus said finally. Captain Thorne took Marcus's arm and guided him through the corridors of the station. As they walked, the captain described where they were going. He pointed out turns and obstacles. He made sure Marcus never stumbled or ran into anything. "How long have you been on Kepler Station?" Captain Thorne asked as they walked. 10 years, Marcus said. "Since I was 6. My parents died in a ship crash and the station took me in. Have you been alone all this time?" "Yes, sir." "There are no other humans here." "Just me." Captain Thorne stopped walking. 10 years? You have been the only human on this station for 10 years? "Yes, sir." "Is that strange?" "Son, that is more than strange. That is—" Captain Thorne paused. "That is not right. Human children should not be raised alone among aliens, especially not a blind child. They started walking again. Marcus could tell they were heading toward the docking bays where the ships landed. He could hear the sounds of engines and loading machines. "What kind of ship do you have?" Marcus asked. "A military ship," Captain Thorne said. "I am with the Human Colonial Defense Force." Marcus felt his eyes get wide. He had heard of the Human Colonial Defense Force, but he had never met anyone from it. They were the ones who protected human colonies from pirates and hostile aliens. "Are you here on a mission?" Marcus asked. "You could say that," Captain Thorne replied. "We are doing a survey of stations and outposts to check on human populations, making sure everyone is safe and well cared for." They reached the docking bay and Captain Thorne led Marcus up a ramp onto his ship. The ship felt different from the station. Everything was designed for humans. The doorways were the right height. The air smelled clean and familiar. The sounds were softer and more comfortable. "This is my quarters," Captain Thorne said, opening a door. "Sit down and make yourself comfortable." Marcus heard the captain moving around the room. Drawers opened and closed. Metal clinked against metal. Finally, Captain Thorne sat down across from Marcus. "Give me those broken pieces," he said. Marcus handed over the remains of his cane. Captain Thorne examined them quietly. "This was a good cane," the captain said finally. "Old-style Earth design. Your parents had good taste. You can tell that just by looking at it. I know a lot about mobility aids. My younger brother was blind too. Born that way." Captain Thorne's voice got softer. He served in the Defense Force for 15 years before he died in battle. "I am sorry," Marcus said. "Do not be sorry. Be proud. David was one of the best soldiers I ever knew. Being blind did not make him weak. It made him different, and different can be very powerful." Marcus heard Captain Thorne stand up and walk across the room. Something heavy slid out of a cabinet. "David left me something before his last mission," Captain Thorne said. "He told me to give it to someone who would need it more than he did. I think that someone is you." Marcus heard footsteps coming back toward him. Something was placed in his hands. It felt like a cane, but it was different. It was heavier than his old one. The metal was smoother and warmer. And there was something else. It hummed with a very quiet energy. "What is it?" Marcus asked. "Military-grade navigation assist," Captain Thorne explained. "The most advanced mobility aid the Defense Force makes. It uses quantum resonance mapping to scan everything around you. It can detect threats, analyze environments, and even predict movement patterns." Marcus ran his hands over the cane. It felt expensive and powerful. "I cannot accept this. It must be worth a fortune." "It was my brother's," Captain Thorne said simply. "He would want you to have it. Besides, you need it more than anyone else right now. How does it work?" "Turn it on." "There is a button near the handle." Marcus found the button and pressed it. Immediately the world exploded around him. Not with light, but with information. He could suddenly sense the walls of the room. He could feel where Captain Thorne was sitting. He could detect the furniture, the doorway, even the pictures hanging on the walls. "This is incredible," Marcus whispered. "That is just the basic mode," Captain Thorne said. "It has 12 different settings. Threat detection, crowd navigation, environmental analysis. It even has a communication system built in." Marcus stood up and took a few steps. The cane guided him perfectly around a chair he had not known was there. It warned him about a low table with a gentle vibration. He felt like he could see everything, even though his eyes still saw nothing. "Why are you giving this to me?" Marcus asked. Captain Thorne was quiet for a moment. "Because those Vorthons were wrong about humans. We are not weak. We do not abandon our own, and we definitely do not let bullies hurt children without consequences." "What do you mean?" "I mean it is time you went back to the station, Marcus. Time to show those lizards what happens when they mess with a human." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. The cane in his hand suddenly felt heavier, more dangerous. "I do not want to fight them," Marcus said. "I just want to be left alone." "Sometimes, son, being left alone means making sure bullies understand they cannot hurt you. This cane will not just help you walk, it will help you defend yourself." Captain Thorne stood up and put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "My brother taught me something before he died. He said that being different is not a weakness. It is a superpower. You just have to learn how to use it." Marcus gripped the new cane tighter. For the first time in years, he felt something he had almost forgotten. He felt strong. Captain Thorne spent the next hour teaching Marcus how to use the military cane. It was nothing like the simple white stick he had used before. This device was a piece of advanced technology that made Marcus feel like he had gained a superpower. The quantum resonance mapping creates a three-dimensional picture of everything around you, Captain Thorne explained. You will feel it through haptic feedback in the handle. Different vibrations mean different things. Marcus practiced walking around the captain's quarters. The cane sent gentle pulses through his hand that told him exactly where everything was. A quick double pulse meant there was a wall ahead. A slow, steady vibration meant someone was standing nearby. A sharp triple pulse warned him about obstacles at ground level. "This is amazing," Marcus said, navigating easily around the furniture. "I can sense everything." "That is just the beginning," Captain Thorne said. "Switch to threat detection mode." Marcus found the control button and pressed it twice. Suddenly, the world around him changed again. The cane began analyzing everything in a new way. It could tell the difference between a person and a piece of furniture. It could detect heart rates and stress levels. It could even predict which direction someone was about to move. "How does it do all this?" Marcus asked. "Quantum sensors, microcomputers, and military-grade artificial intelligence," Captain Thorne replied. "The same technology we use to track enemy ships in space battles." Marcus felt overwhelmed. "This is too advanced for me. I am just a kid who sorts garbage." "No, you are not," Captain Thorne said firmly. "You are a human being, and human beings adapt. We survive. We overcome. That is what makes us special in this galaxy." The captain showed Marcus more features. The cane could record conversations and play them back later. It could connect to communication networks and send emergency signals. It could even analyze the chemical composition of the air and warn about dangerous gases. "There is one more thing," Captain Thorne said. "The most important feature." "What is that?" "Emergency protocol activation. If you are ever in serious danger, you can trigger a distress signal that will reach every human military vessel within 3 sectors of space." Captain Thorne took Marcus's hand and guided it to a special button hidden under a protective cover near the bottom of the cane. "This is the emergency activation," the captain explained. "But do not use it unless you really need help. When you press this button and say the activation words, things will happen very quickly." "What are the activation words?" "Omega Protocol Active. Say those 3 words after pressing the button and help will come." Marcus memorized the words and the location of the button. The idea that he could call for help from anywhere in the galaxy made him feel safer than he had in years. "Now," Captain Thorne said, "let us talk about self-defense." For the next 30 minutes, the captain taught Marcus basic defensive moves. The military cane was not just a walking aid. It was also a weapon. The metal was reinforced and could block attacks. The tip was designed to be used as a striking point. The sensors could predict when someone was about to attack, giving Marcus time to react. "Remember," Captain Thorne said, "you are not trying to hurt anyone. You are just protecting yourself. Use the cane's sensors to avoid attacks and create distance between you and any threat." Marcus practiced the moves slowly at first, then faster as he got more comfortable. The cane guided his movements, helping him block imaginary attacks and counter-strike safely. "I feel like a completely different person," Marcus said. "You are the same person," Captain Thorne corrected. "You just have better tools now, and you are remembering what it means to be human." "What do you mean?" "Humans do not give up, Marcus. We do not let bullies win. We stand up for ourselves and for each other. Your parents would be proud of the young man you are becoming." Marcus felt tears in his eyes, but they were good tears this time. For the first time in 10 years, he felt like he belonged somewhere. He felt like he was part of something bigger than himself. "What happens now?" Marcus asked. "Now you go back to the station," Captain Thorne said. "You go to work. You live your life, but this time you do it with confidence. And if those Vorthans bother you again, you show them what happens when they mess with a human." Captain Thorne walked Marcus back through the corridors of the station. People stared at them as they passed. A human military officer was an unusual sight on Kepler Station. Some aliens nodded respectfully. Others whispered to each other and pointed. "They are looking at us," Marcus said quietly. "Let them look," Captain Thorne replied. "Let them remember that humans have not forgotten about this place. Let them remember that we protect our own." They reached the main plaza where the incident had happened earlier. Marcus could sense that there were many people around. The cane's threat detection mode was picking up dozens of life forms. Most were calm and going about their business, but some seemed agitated or excited. The Vorthans are still here, Marcus said, reading the Kane's feedback. I can sense their stress levels and aggressive postures. Good, Captain Thorne said. You are learning to read the signals. What else can you tell me? Marcus concentrated on the information flowing through the Kane. There are 5 of them. They are standing near the food vendors, talking loudly. They seem angry about something. They are probably angry that you disappeared, Captain Thorne said. Bullies do not like it when their victims get away. What should I do? Whatever you want to do, son. You have the tools now to handle any situation. Trust yourself. Marcus thought about all the months of harassment and humiliation. He thought about his broken cane and the cruel words the Vorthans had said about his parents. He thought about how alone and helpless he had felt. Then he thought about Captain Thorne's brother David, who had served in the military despite being blind. He thought about the advanced cane in his hands and the emergency signal that could bring help from across the galaxy. He thought about what it meant to be human. I want to go back to the recycling center, Marcus said finally. I want to do my job, and I want everyone to know that I am not afraid anymore. That sounds like a good plan, Captain Thorne said. But remember, if you need help, just say those 3 words. Omega Protocol active, Marcus repeated. That is right. I will be watching from my ship for a while. But even after I leave, other humans will be watching too. You are not alone anymore, Marcus. Marcus felt the captain's hand on his shoulder one more time. Then Captain Thorne turned and walked back toward the docking bays. Marcus stood in the plaza for a moment, getting used to all the information his new cane was providing. He could sense exactly where everyone was standing. He could tell who was moving and who was standing still. He could detect conversations and emotional states. The world around him was clearer than it had ever been, even when he was very young and still had some vision. Marcus started walking toward the recycling center. His path would take him right past where the Vorthans were standing. He could have taken a longer route to avoid them, but he decided not to. He was done hiding and running away. As he approached the group, his cane detected their stress levels rising. They had noticed him. Marcus could sense them turning to face him and moving into aggressive positions. Well, well, came Scrix's familiar voice. Look who came back. And look what he has with him. Marcus kept walking. The cane guided him perfectly around other people and obstacles. He moved with confidence and purpose. Nice stick, Vex said mockingly. Where did you steal it from? Marcus stopped walking and faced the sound of Vex's voice. For the first time in months, he was not afraid. The cane was feeding him so much information about his surroundings that he felt completely in control. I did not steal anything, Marcus said calmly. This was a gift. A gift? Scrix laughed. Who would give a gift to a useless human orphan? Someone who understands what it means to be human, Marcus replied. The Vorthans moved closer. Marcus could sense their positions perfectly. 3 in front of him, 2 moving to circle behind. Their heart rates were elevated and their body language showed clear aggressive intent. You know what I think? Scrix said. I think we should break this stick too. Teach you a lesson about getting too proud. Marcus smiled. You can try. The crowd in the plaza began to gather as word spread that something interesting was happening. Marcus could sense dozens of aliens stopping their activities to watch. His new cane painted a detailed picture of the scene around him. Zephyrians stood tall with their arms crossed. Quilnox whispered excitedly to each other. Granites rumbled low conversations. Everyone seemed to know that this confrontation was different from the usual bullying. Did you just tell us to try? Scrix asked, his voice full of disbelief. Did this broken human just challenge us? Marcus stood perfectly still, letting his cane analyze everything around him. The quantum sensors were working constantly, tracking movement patterns and predicting what each Vorthan was likely to do next. It was like having eyes that could see in all directions at once. I am not challenging anyone, Marcus said calmly. I'm just going to work. If you want to try to stop me, that is your choice. Vex stepped forward aggressively. The cane immediately detected the movement and calculated the angle of approach. Marcus could sense exactly where Vex was, how fast he was moving, and where he was planning to grab. You think having a fancy stick makes you tough? Vex snarled. No, Marcus replied. I think understanding who I am makes me strong. The first attack came faster than any normal person could have reacted to. But Marcus was not relying on normal human reflexes anymore. The cane's threat detection system had been tracking Vex's muscle tension and micro-movements for several seconds. It knew the attack was coming before Vex had even decided to move. As Vex lunged forward to grab the cane, Marcus simply stepped to the side. The Vorthon's claws passed through empty air. Vex stumbled and nearly fell, his momentum carrying him past his target. The crowd murmured in surprise. Marcus had moved with perfect timing and grace, as if he had seen the attack coming. "Lucky dodge," Scrix growled. "Try that again." 2 more Vorthons moved in from different angles. The cane tracked both of them simultaneously, calculating their speed and approach vectors. Marcus could sense their intentions as clearly as if they had announced their plans out loud. When they rushed him together, Marcus used the cane's guidance to step backward and pivot. Both Vorthons collided with each other instead of him. They went down in a tangle of scales and claws, hissing angrily. More murmurs from the crowd. Some aliens started taking out their communication devices to record what was happening. This was becoming more than just bullying. This was becoming a spectacle. "What is happening?" demanded Scrix. "How are you doing that?" Marcus smiled. "I am just walking to work. You are the ones making this complicated." The truth was, Marcus felt amazing. For the first time in his life, he was not the helpless victim. The advanced cane made him feel like he had superpowers. He could predict every movement, avoid every attack, and stay perfectly balanced and calm. Scrix signaled to the other Vorthons. All 5 of them spread out in a circle around Marcus. They were done playing games. This was now a serious fight. "End of the line, human," Scrix said. "We are going to take that stick and break it. Then we are going to break you." Marcus felt his heart rate increase slightly, but the cane helped him stay calm. Its sensors showed him exactly where each Vorthon was positioned. He could detect their stress levels, their aggressive postures, and their preparation for a coordinated attack. "You know," Marcus said conversationally, "my parents used to tell me stories about humans and aliens working together. They believed that different species could live in peace and help each other." "Your parents were fools," Vex spat. "Maybe," Marcus said, "but they also taught me that humans never give up. We do not let bullies win, and we always protect the innocent." "You are not protecting anyone," Scrix laughed. "You are just a blind child with a walking stick." Marcus turned to face Scrix directly. Even though he could not see with his eyes, the cane's sensors let him look right at the Vorthon leader with perfect accuracy. "I am more than you think I am," Marcus said quietly. The attack came from all sides at once. 5 Vorthons rushed in simultaneously, intending to overwhelm Marcus with sheer numbers. But the military cane was designed for exactly this kind of situation. Its quantum processors analyzed the attack pattern in microseconds and provided Marcus with a perfect solution. Marcus moved like a dancer. He stepped left to avoid Scrix, ducked under Vex's claws, and used his cane to block a strike from behind. The device guided his movements with precise feedback, helping him flow around the attacks like water flowing around rocks. The Vorthons crashed into each other again, their coordination destroyed by Marcus's impossible dodging. They untangled themselves and stared at him in confusion and growing fear. "This is impossible," one of them muttered. "How can he see us coming?" asked another. Marcus stood in the center of their circle, completely unharmed. His breathing was steady and his posture was confident. The cane rested casually in his hand, its quantum sensors still tracking every small movement around him. The crowd had grown larger. Word was spreading throughout the station that something remarkable was happening in the main plaza. Aliens who had never paid attention to Marcus before were now watching him with interest and respect. "Maybe," said a Zephyrian in the crowd, "the human is not as helpless as we thought. Look how he moves," and whispered to Quilnuck.
"It is like he can see everything." Scrix's face was twisted with rage and embarrassment.
Being made to look foolish by a blind human boy was the worst thing that could happen to a Vorthon. His reputation as a tough leader was being destroyed in front of hundreds of witnesses. "I do not know what kind of trick this is," Scrix snarled, "but it ends now." He reached into his belt and pulled out a shock weapon. It was illegal to carry weapons on Kepler Station, but the security forces rarely bothered to check Vorthons. Everyone was too afraid of them, the crowd gasped. This had gone beyond simple bullying. Now it was a life-threatening situation. Marcus's cane immediately detected the weapon. Its threat assessment system jumped to maximum alert. The device began tracking the weapon's energy signature and calculating optimal defense strategies. "Put that away," Marcus said firmly. "You do not want to do this." "Yes, I do." Scrix replied. I want to fry your brain and end this humiliation. Marcus felt a moment of real fear. The military cane was advanced, but it could not stop an energy weapon. He was still just a 16-year-old boy facing armed criminals. But then he remembered Captain Thorne's words. Humans do not give up. They do not let bullies win. And most importantly, they were never truly alone. Marcus reached down to the hidden button on his cane. His fingers found the emergency activation control that Captain Thorne had shown him. He could call for help, real help, military help, but first he would try words one more time. Scrix, Marcus said loudly, making sure everyone in the crowd could hear him. You are about to make the biggest mistake of your life. Put down the weapon and walk away. This is your last chance. Scrix laughed and raised the shock weapon. The only mistake here is that your parents did not abort you when they had the chance. That was the final insult. Marcus had endured months of harassment. He had forgiven physical attacks and cruel words. But no one was allowed to dishonor his parents' memory. Marcus pressed the emergency button on his cane. The device immediately began transmitting a quantum-encrypted distress signal across multiple subspace channels. Every human military vessel within 3 sectors of space would receive the message within minutes. Then Marcus spoke 3 words that would change everything on Kepler Station. Omega Protocol active. The 3 words echoed across the plaza like thunder. Omega Protocol active. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Scrix still held his shock weapon pointed at Marcus. The crowd still watched in tense silence. The Vorthons still looked confident and aggressive. Then the station's emergency communication system crackled to life. Every speaker on Kepler Station began broadcasting the same message simultaneously. The voice that came through was deep, authoritative, and unmistakably human. It carried the weight of military command and absolute certainty. Attention, all citizens of Kepler Station. This is Admiral Harrison of the Human Colonial Defense Force. We have received a Code Omega emergency signal from your location. All hostile actions must cease immediately. Any being threatening human personnel will be considered an act of war against the Human Colonial Alliance. The shock weapon in Scrix's hand began to shake. His confident expression melted into one of fear and confusion. Around the plaza, aliens stopped what they were doing and looked up at the speakers with wide eyes. Furthermore, the Admiral's voice continued, this station is now under temporary military protection, pending investigation of reported attacks on human civilians. All security forces are ordered to stand down. Human Defense Force personnel are en route to restore order. Marcus stood perfectly still in the center of the circle of Vorthons. His cane continued to track their movements, but now those movements were much less aggressive. The bullies were looking around nervously, realizing that this situation had escalated far beyond their control. What have you done? Scrix whispered, his voice cracking with fear. I called my family, Marcus said simply. The plaza erupted in whispered conversations as aliens tried to understand what was happening. Most had never heard of a Code Omega signal. They did not know that it was the highest level of human military emergency response, reserved for situations where human civilians were in immediate mortal danger. All citizens remain calm, Admiral Harrison's voice announced. This is a standard security operation. Cooperate with incoming personnel and no harm will come to anyone. We are here to protect, not to conquer. But despite the Admiral's reassuring words, the atmosphere on the station had changed completely. For decades, Kepler Station had operated without any human military presence. The aliens who lived there had almost forgotten that humans had one of the most powerful space fleets in the galaxy. Now they were being reminded. Scrix lowered his shock weapon slowly. His scales had turned a pale green color that Marcus's cane identified as extreme fear. The other Vorthons were backing away from Marcus as if he had become radioactive. You cannot do this, Vex said desperately. This is our station. We live here. You are just one human. I am never just one human, Marcus replied. None of us are. That is what you never understood. Heavy footsteps echoed through the plaza. Captain Thorne appeared, flanked by 4 other human soldiers in full military gear. Their armor was polished and intimidating. Their weapons were visible but not drawn. They moved with the disciplined precision of elite troops. The crowd parted to let them through. Even the largest granites stepped aside respectfully. Human military forces had a reputation throughout the galaxy for being both honorable and absolutely lethal when provoked. Report, citizen, Captain Thorne said as he approached Marcus. 5 Vorthans attempted assault with intent to destroy military equipment, Marcus said formally. 1 individual escalated to threatened use of an illegal energy weapon. Captain Thorne's eyes fixed on the shock weapon still in Scrix's trembling hand. Is that weapon registered with station security? Scrix said nothing. Everyone knew the answer. Drop the weapon and place your hands on your head, one of the soldiers commanded. Scrix dropped the shock weapon like it had caught fire. The metal device clattered loudly on the plaza floor. All 5 Vorthans raised their hands and assumed submissive postures. Please, Scrix begged. We did not know. We thought he was just an orphan. We did not know he was military. He is not military, Captain Thorne said coldly. He is a civilian, a child, which makes your actions even worse. More human soldiers were arriving from different directions. Marcus's cane detected at least 20 of them taking positions around the plaza. They moved quietly and efficiently, securing the area without causing panic. The Human Colonial Defense Force takes a very serious view of attacks on civilians, Captain Thorne announced loudly enough for the entire crowd to hear. Especially attacks on children. Especially attacks on disabled individuals who cannot defend themselves through normal means. But we were just playing, Vex protested weakly. You broke his mobility aid, Captain Thorne said. You threatened him with an illegal weapon. You attempted to isolate and harm a minor. In human space, these actions would result in criminal charges and imprisonment. The captain walked over to Marcus and placed a hand on his shoulder. Are you injured, son? No, sir, Marcus replied. The new equipment worked perfectly. Good. Did they damage the device in any way? No, sir. It is functioning normally. Captain Thorne nodded and turned back to face the Vorthans. You 5 will be detained pending investigation. Depending on what we find, you may face charges in human courts. But this is not human space, Scrix protested. This is a neutral station. This station receives human trade and human protection, Captain Thorne replied. It hosts human civilians. That makes it subject to human justice when crimes are committed against human citizens. Admiral Harrison's voice came through the speakers again.
Station Administrator Krell, please report to Docking Bay 7 immediately.
We need to discuss new security arrangements for the protection of human residents. Marcus could sense the tension in the crowd changing. What had started as entertainment was now a serious diplomatic incident. The aliens around them were beginning to understand that attacking the lone human boy had triggered consequences none of them had imagined. Marcus, Captain Thorne said quietly, would you like to press charges against these individuals? Marcus thought about it for a moment. He thought about months of harassment and humiliation. He thought about his broken cane and the cruel words about his parents. He thought about how alone and helpless he had felt. Then he thought about what his parents would have wanted. They had believed in forgiveness and second chances. They had trusted that most beings were good at heart even when they made mistakes. I want them to understand something, Marcus said finally. What is that? Marcus stepped forward so that he was facing all 5 Vorthans directly. His cane tracked their positions perfectly, allowing him to look each of them in the eye despite his blindness. Humans do not abandon each other, he said clearly. We do not let our own suffer alone. When you hurt one of us, you hurt all of us. When you threaten one of us, you threaten all of us. He paused to let the words sink in. But humans also believe in mercy. We believe that people can change and become better than they were. So I am going to give you a choice. The Vorthans listened in stunned silence. You can face human military justice for your crimes, or you can spend the next year helping disabled residents of this station. You can learn what it means to protect people instead of hurting them. Captain Thorne raised an eyebrow. That is very generous, Marcus. My parents taught me to be generous, Marcus replied. They also taught me to be strong when I need to be. Scrix looked around at his friends, then back at Marcus. You would really let us go? I would give you a chance to be better, Marcus corrected. Whether you take that chance is up to you. The 5 Vorthans exchanged glances. They could face military prison or they could face community service. The choice was obvious. We accept, Scrix said quietly. We will help, Captain Thorne nodded. Very well. You will report to Station Administrator Krell every day for work assignments. You will be monitored by human security personnel. Any violation of the terms will result in immediate arrest. As the soldiers began to disperse and the crowd started to break up, Marcus felt a strange sense of completion. He was still the same person he had been that morning. He was still blind. He was still an orphan. He was still the only human child on Kepler Station, but now everyone knew what Captain Thorne had taught him. Being different was not a weakness. It was a superpower, and humans never ever abandoned their own. Marcus tapped his advanced cane on the metal floor and started walking toward the recycling center. He had a job to do. Behind him, he could hear Captain Thorne giving orders to his soldiers. Above him, Admiral Harrison was still coordinating with the station administration. Around him, hundreds of aliens watched with new respect as the blind human boy walked confidently through their station. They would remember this day for a long time. They would remember that humans might seem small and weak individually, but they were never truly alone, and they would remember 3 words that could bring a fleet of warships across the galaxy. Omega Protocol active. Marcus smiled as he walked. For the first time in 10 years, he felt like he was truly home.